If World War III falls and no one's around, does it make a sound?
Yes, it goes boom.
Welcome to another Enough Already podcast. I'm Fingers Malloy. My lovely co-host Tracy L. Connors is here. So if you're watching us on YouTube or BitChute, you can see her smiling face. I like to hide behind my mic, but you're going to catch the Enough Already podcast. You're going to catch it. That's what the kids say nowadays. You're going to catch it. Where all good podcasts are sold. We've been gone for, 3 weeks now because of the holidays, Tracy?
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4? I don't know. We aren't as consistent as we should be, and I blame myself. So, there's that. But a lot has happened since we've been gone. We had World War III. Tracy, you want to begin with World War III?
Absolutely.
Did you see the young kids slamming the Selective Service website, worried about being drafted?
Yes.
Because we're going to World War III with Iran. There's really a lack of understanding about our military power and how these things work, Tracy. I mean, the kids out there were terrified they were going to be drafted.
Well, they did sign up for it with their student loans. Oops.
Oh, boy. So we killed General. I've been calling him General Salami. It just is easier.
Yeah. Smoked salami, I believe, is what his full name is.
So we killed this Iranian general. Drop a couple of drone bombs on him. Right? Is that how it went? With a drone?
Yeah. I don't know that there were multiples. I think it's just one good old shot. But whatever you say, I'll go with.
And all hell breaks loose. How dare we assassinate this Iranian general? Generally, I'm for not escalating any kind of international conflict. I feel like we're spread thin and in too many places. But this guy was a piece of shit, and he was orchestrating attacks on Americans, and I have no problem with turning him into a grease spot. Do you?
Not particularly, no. And he wasn't only targeting Americans. He was shutting down the Iranian protests against their leadership.
Yeah.
Of which he was number 2. But if you think about it logistically, he controls the military. So he's really the head of Iran. Like, let's be honest here.
And so by doing so, Donald Trump started World War III, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody freaks out. And then you have a situation where the Iranians feel like they have to respond, and they do by launching. What was funny was watching this whole thing play out over on social media. First it was rockets, then it was missiles. Nobody knew what was happening. 30 American casualties were reported. And then, you know what? Nobody got hurt. And
yeah, it was footage from a gun range in Kentucky, was it?
Yeah, and since then, nothing has happened. So this is really the quickest, dullest World War III in the history of World War III scenarios.
Right. Well, no, there has been something that's happened since then. The Iranians accidentally shot down a passenger jet. Oops.
And somehow you've got a bunch of people doing mental gymnastics into believing that that's Trump's fault.
Of course it is. They wouldn't have been on edge like that if he hadn't done what he did. So therefore, it is his fault that they are so dumb that they don't have good enough radar to tell them, hey, that's a plane that just took off from this airport. Maybe we shouldn't shoot it down.
Maybe we should suspend all air traffic in and out of the airport while we're launching missiles from our soil into a foreign country. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, there are apps that exist that you can point at the sky at any plane and it'll tell you what that plane is. Did you know that? Yeah. I guess they don't have that in Iran. I don't know.
But they just got MySpace. So.
Oh, okay. But it does seem a little shady. It's kind of weird. Really? You just accidentally, somebody overzealous, just hit a button? A little strange.
You think there was someone in the Iranian military hierarchy who said, you know what? This missile launch is a sham because we're not targeting anybody, but it's killing time. We got to kill somebody.
I guess, potentially.
It's killing time.
It's like, who else could we involve that would make this even more ridiculous? I know, a Ukrainian airliner.
Let's hope there's some Canadians on that plane.
They were Canadian Iranians, is my understanding. They had citizenship. So there is a theory, Fingers, and I don't know how this all plays out, but you know I love the wild conspiracy stuff.
I know you do.
That they were actually a sleeper cell that was being sent to Canada, and I believe the flight was they were going to get to Canada and then go to Edmonton, and they're under this guise that they're oil field workers or whatever. So that would mean they could travel with all kinds of crazy stuff, including C4. So they would get to Canada with their little C4, and then they would come down over the border and wreak havoc. So, okay, maybe that happens. They get on a plane, and then all of a sudden somebody finds out high up in Iran, and it's like, holy shit, we can't have that going on. We got to take that plane down. Instead of saying, we can just wait till they get to Canadian soil and take them, or we could have stopped them before they got on the plane, or whatever.
But why couldn't they just scramble a couple of Iranian fighter jets to bring that plane back to Tehran instead of blowing it up?
Who knows? But I find that to be entertaining, at least. This is how I look at most of these conspiracy theories. Pure entertainment.
So, have you been watching the social media reaction to this over the past week and whatever day? When did this happen? Everything's running together.
I think it was after New Year, before the New Year. I don't remember. My reaction was, why is everybody freaking out about this? We've been at war with Iran for as long as I can remember. We're just in all these proxy wars with them.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how people love to throw out there, well, you need a history lesson to understand all of this. The Iranians are pissed off over us propping up the Shah of Iran.
Oh. Okay, maybe.
Okay, well, what does that have to do with Iranians blowing up Saudi oil fields? What does the Shah of Iran have to do with that? What does the Shah of Iran have to do with Iran propping up Hezbollah and wreaking havoc in Lebanon? You know,
answer for that?
There's no answer for that other than the Iranians want to be a power broker in the Middle East, and if we walk away, and I'm not saying that we should stay in Iraq indefinitely, but there's this image of Iran that we're the ones pissing them off, and if we would just go away, then everything would be okay.
Maybe. Well, let's test that, because I'm happy to get the hell out of there. And it seems like it could be heading in that direction.
Yeah.
Which would be a great thing. I mean, that takes away one of the big issues the Democrats have in 2020, if we get the hell out of the Middle East.
Well, we're headed that way, it looks like. And I agree with you. I want to be out of there, but I also want to have the ability to drop some bombs if things get out of hand. That's all.
Understandable. Yeah, I think World War III, if it really popped off, would be over in a matter of days.
Right.
I don't think we're ever going to see massive ground wars again. It doesn't make any sense. We've got enough killer robots.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, that cracks me up about let's go back to the Shah of Iran thing for a second. So the Iranians, many of whom were not alive when the Shah was in power, they're supposed to be harboring this resentment of the United States over the Shah. And apparently that's unforgivable. And you can't move on from something that happened that long ago. We're allies with the Japanese, Tracy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Germany, they're our allies now. I mean, the idea that this is just the Shah of Iran thing is just unforgivable.
But you're also talking about totally different cultures as well.
Oh.
So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a portion of the Iranian population that does still harbor that resentment towards us, which is understandable. But I think the younger generation doesn't like the current theocratic rule that they installed when they threw us out of there in the late 70s.
And that's what's going to be interesting to see, and that's why you saw Trump tweet this week. And do you have that tweet?
Yes, his Farsi tweets.
Can you read read that? I know you're fluent in Farsi.
Well,
I know. I do translate it
to translate it for you. So there were two of them back to back, and I can't remember which one came first. So let's just say this one came first. So this is after the Iranian government has admitted that we killed a whole bunch of people on that airplane. And so the Iranian protesters took to the streets again, and now they can do so without worrying about getting killed, I suppose, by smoked salami there. So Trump tweeted in Farsi, which Google calls Persian, and I looked it up, and I'm like, well, there's Persian, Farsi. So who knows? It's paintbrush language, as Gavin McInnes likes to call them. He says, to the brave and suffering Iranian people, I have stood with you since the beginning of my presidency, and my government will continue to stand with you. We are following your protests closely. Your courage is inspiring. Now, that has 360,000 likes. And I saw somebody say it's the biggest tweet ever in Farsi earlier today. So take that for what? And then the second one says the Iranian government should allow human rights groups to monitor and report on the current reality of protests in the Iranian people. So this is obviously a poor translation, but we should not see the peaceful killing of protesters again or the internet shut down. The world is watching. So, I mean, that was one of the things that I thought, killing this guy and then learning he's the one that's been killing the protesters and trying to keep that quiet, and he's the military strength. Taking him out kind of tells the Iranian people, hey, we've got your back. If you want to get rid of your regime, we're going to crank up the sanctions, which is why you've been protesting them to begin with. And if you want to chuck them out, we're there for you.
Do you remember what was Nita? That was her name, I think. There was a woman, they got footage of her being shot in Tehran. I think it was Nita, but I'm not positive. And that went viral. It was awful. It was during the protests during the Obama administration, where Obama just kept his mouth shut, and the Iranian students were protesting, and for some reason this footage somehow was shown where someone on a cell phone, she got shot, they ran up, and basically you watched her die in the streets of Iran.
No, typically stay away from videos like that.
Oh, terrible. I believe it was back in 2009, June 2009. And our government back then just kind of stayed silent and didn't rally behind the protest movement. And it makes you wonder how influential things like this, how influential it is to protesters in Iran when, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. I mean, there are workarounds, but how much of the internet there is censored?
Right. Yeah, and if we could get them access to the internet, what kind of a game changer is that? I mean, people have talked about doing that with North Korea even. You can drop in those, what is it? The Google has the balloons that provide Wi-Fi. If you could do that and override the crackdown, who knows what happens. But I think this is so much better than the United States military showing up and enforcing our way of life on people that don't necessarily want it. Like the Iraqis weren't clamoring for democracy or more freedom, but the Iranians actually lived under fairly liberal standards in that part of the world. I mean, during the 60s and 70s, you can look up pictures of Iranian women running around in mini skirts and bikinis.
Right.
And then...
Well, and the thing is, too, if you see... I've seen several reports of Iranians, particularly Iranian women, once they get home. How they're dressed. They're dressed like American women. Mm-hmm. But they have to go out and cover themselves from head to toe in public. But once they get home, they throw all that stuff off. They got jeans and shorts and they, makeup. And it's tough to be a woman and gay in Iran. Those are the two. And it, among others. And
yeah,
it's...
Well, if you're gay, they just force you into gender reassignment surgery.
Or throw you off a building.
Well, if you won't go for the surgery, I assume these are the two choices.
But it's amazing to me how many of the blue checkmark smart set on the left, it almost is like if you sit back and just read the tweets, it's like they're embracing Iran in this just because of Orange Man bad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they can't see. There's no nuance. It's like, oh, look at all the people that turned out for the funeral. Do you remember when Kim Jong-il died? And they showed everybody just weeping hysterically in the streets. It's like, this is all for show. Do you not get that? These people are under threat. You better participate. You better be sad. This is how this works. And I just don't think that we have any idea what it's like to live under a system like that at all.
Well, no. I mean, look how Trump is being treated by the left in this country. They're acting like they're oppressed.
Yeah. Well, they are, don't you know?
God, and they make me sound like I'm a huge Trump fan. I'm really not.
You're a member of the cult, Fingers.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the show.
Sure. But that meme just won't go away. And then they look at Iran and don't think, holy shit, those people are a brainwashed cult that's been terrified into behaving this way.
Yeah. So we'll see if anything more develops. I'm sure there will something's got to happen. So an oil tanker is going to be seized again, or because with him being turned to dust, I would think that there is a worry among the ruling class in Iran that they'll look weak if they don't show their people more than just the little missile launch,
But they can show their people whatever they want.
That's true. But now you got these protests. It's going to be interesting to see. I got to believe that sometime in the near future we're going to see another oil tanker or something will be shot down, and then it'll be Trump's move again. Potentially.
I mean, I think it was bizarre. Why lob missiles at us that aren't going to hit?
Well, like you said, you can show the launch of the missiles on Iranian TV that you're fighting back, but
show the Kentucky shooting range, like ABC News.
Yeah, but if they would have killed
to waste money in weapons,
if they would have killed a bunch of American troops. What happens then? Because you do have, for good reason, you've got many Americans who have no appetite for a war with Iran, but at the same time...
But we're already at war with Iran.
I understand that.
I don't understand why we're pretending this is a new thing.
I understand that, but we've been ignoring it for...
Well, it's just not presented that way.
40 years.
So... I don't know. I'm hoping that this is the beginning of the end.
It could be
out of there.
It could be. I mean, Reagan dropped bombs on Gaddafi's tent, and it pretty much shut him up. So maybe maybe this could rein things in a little bit over there.
But speaking of it, has been funny to see, what was I calling them? Captain Kill List's cheerleaders. So if you'll remember, Obama had a kill list that was curated by John Brennan of all the people we were allowed to just drone strike without any authorization or anything. And Obama told people he was quite good at killing people.
That's right.
He would handpick targets. And so to see Ben Rhodes freaking out on Twitter about this, oh my God, abuse of power and all this nonsense. It's just like, you sat by while he played, I don't know, what are some of the video games where you get to kill people? Because that's what he treated it like.
Missile Command?
Okay, sure. Miss Pac-Man?
Yeah, Duck Hunter.
There you go. That's what he treated it. So it's a little bit bizarre. And then you had the fake news story about, the Pentagon presented Trump with all these options and they threw in killing Soleimani because they thought they always throw in one outrageous one. So to make everything else look more reasonable.
Yeah.
It's like, no. And they haven't fully backed out of that. And I saw MSNBC reporting that yesterday as if it was true. And it's like, no, apparently Pompeo and Pence have been pushing him for months to take Soleimani out. And the reason the Pentagon was surprised is because Trump hasn't wanted to do stuff like this. So exactly the opposite of the picture that's painted in the media with him and his crazy orange finger just hovering over that button at all times. It took a lot to force his hand on this. And he said, hey, we've got a shot at this guy. Should we take him out or not?
He's in Iraq.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be one thing if we sent a cruise missile over to wherever he lives in Iran. Then I could see people go, wow, that's an escalation. But when he's in Iraq orchestrating attacks against American interests.
Right. Yeah, our embassy had just been under siege. He's probably has a hand in all of that, and then he just pops his head up. Oh, sorry. We'll play whack-a-mole with you. That's a game that I know.
Ah, yeah, there you go. So there's that. That happened. We can get to impeachment if you want to in a minute, but we didn't talk about this pre-show. But Ricky Gervais' speech at the Golden Globes, the monologue, not speech, it got rave reviews from people on the right. But to steal a Chris Rock bit. Did you get your Ricky Gervais monologue prize in the mail? Because no. I didn't get it.
No, but the funniest thing to me was that it didn't change anything. Nobody in that room changed their speech as a result of that. It just went in one ear and out the other. They didn't feel the least bit silly going up there and pounding the podium and whining about how oppressed everybody is and how we live in an awful country and our rights are being taken away every day and the world's going to end tomorrow because of climate change and all that kind of stuff.
I was disappointed that no one... People take these awards way too seriously. I was hoping someone was going to make a joke based on it. Like, someone would stand there with their Golden Globe and say something like, well, I wanted to begin by bringing to everyone's attention the scourge of feline AIDS. But after what Ricky said at the beginning of the show, it seems kind of pointless. I shouldn't be using this platform for that. So but nobody did anything. It was just like that never happened at all.
Yes.
I think
acknowledging it.
I think part of it too is that people were sitting in that seat just steaming, wanting to come up to the stage and say something, but he's too smart. He's too clever. He's too funny. Most of those people are used to having words written for them, pre-prepared. To have something come off the top of their heads that will burn Ricky Gervais and him not have any kind of comeback, he would destroy them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
No, and you're right. And they had their speeches written. So to your point, it's like, no, I have what I'm going to say. This is my dialogue for the day, and I'm not deviating from it, even though we all just got told.
You think he'll be back?
Maybe. I think the Oscars is silly not to snap him up. I mean, his monologue got more. I think it got more views than the actual Golden Globes.
Look, you're much more into that than I am. I mean, you used to work in that industry. Do you watch award ceremonies?
No. Not at all.
I mean, I remember as a kid, I used to look forward to watching the Grammys, for the live performances and stuff like that. And then Milli Vanilli won a Grammy, and then it opened my eyes to what a fraud the music industry is. But still, the people who really, it's just like the people who really get into the royal family. I just don't understand it. Like the whole pomp and circumstance of the Oscars and, the red carpet and who's wearing what. And I got to watch the Oscar pre-show. And I don't know. Maybe
to that. When I was in the industry, I cared a little bit, especially if something I worked on was nominated or something like that. But anymore, no, don't really care.
Was anything that you worked on ever nominated?
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to say?
I don't see why not, but I worked on Blue Valentine starring Michelle Williams, who had quite the little speech, I suppose, which I didn't watch, and everybody's all upset about something about she had an abortion or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to say I've worked with a bunch of those people that were up on the stage spouting off about things, and just look, they're damaged human beings. I don't know why people can't see that, and I kind of feel bad for them. They are.
Have you met in Hollywood? I mean, I know you. I shouldn't say, that you've known, huge star like a Tom Hanks, but you've met enough actors in your time. Have you met a normal actor?
Yeah.
You have?
One of the normal people is Ryan Gosling.
Okay.
Very normal. He was in that same movie, Blue Valentine. I don't know if he was nominated, but Michelle Williams was for that movie. And he was the most down-to-earth, normal dude. I remember when we were shooting that, Beyonce's, what song was it? Was it If You Like It, Then You Should Have Put a Ring on It was really huge.
Yeah.
And he could sing, and he was singing and dancing around to that song the whole time. We were all staying at this hotel. We were shooting out in beautiful Scranton, Pennsylvania, home of Joe Biden. So we were all living in this hotel. And I came home. I was always one of the last out of set because I had to do all the end of the day SAG paperwork and everything. So everybody's got to be gone. And then I have to do all the crew paperwork and all this. So I would usually be home maybe an hour after everybody else, and actors like 2 hours. And the hotel that we were staying in was this beautiful old train station that they had converted into a hotel. And in the lobby, there was a grand piano. And I came in from set one night, and I hear somebody playing the piano. And I was like, oh, that's quite lovely. I wonder who that is. And I look up, and it's Ryan. And nobody's paying attention to him at all. Like, there are all these girls being like, oh, my God, it's Ryan. And this is after The Notebook and all that kind of stuff. But he was just totally unassuming, normal dude. And I don't know if that's because he's Canadian or what. But
did people know? Did the locals know? I mean, because part of me would think to myself, if, say, I'm in Scranton and I'm checking into a hotel, the last thing I would think of is, that has to be Ryan Gosling playing the piano over there.
Well, if it's a whole film crew, the people at the hotel would probably know.
Yeah. Well, did you go over there and listen to him, or?
I might have said hi to him. I mean, I spent quite a bit of time with them. My position on that, it required me to deal with a lot of the cast. So, but I met a lot of really nice people. I would say it was about 50-50.
Without mentioning names, am I making you uncomfortable with this question?
No,
where I'm going?
just like, what are my NDAs? Like, do they ever run out?
Well, without mentioning names, that wouldn't violate an NDA, right? I mean,
No, I don't think so. And I mean, you can go look at my IMDb and see who I've worked with.
Any actor that was completely batshit crazy, where you were like, "Oh man, this is a broken person."
Yes.
Was it how that the person treated other actors, or listen? Who was the actor? I'm sure you've heard the audio where he goes nuts on a lighting guy.
Oh, that was Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
And I actually applauded that because he wasn't yelling at a lighting guy. He was yelling at the director of photography. And so the way that it works typically is when you're shooting a scene, you have the director on set and the director of photography, and you bring in the actors, and they run through it, and they do what's called a blocking rehearsal so they can figure out where their marks are. They drop little marks on the floor, actors go away, director goes away, and you light the set. And that's up to the director of photography.
Okay.
They decide where the camera goes and where the lights go. So the fact that that guy walked in front of a light while they're shooting is just insane. He's the one that put them there, number one. And number two, you're not supposed to be walking around when actors are shooting their scenes. Like, you should be out of their eye line, and you should be out of the way as much as possible and don't move. So if you need to go somewhere, you clear out of the set. So director of photography usually goes and sits at a monitor on his ass next to the director. So I can totally understand why Bale did that. And I think it was deserved. I wish I could have done something like that. But the best ever, I don't know if you've ever seen it, is David O. Russell. He directed, probably most famously, Silver Linings Playbook. I don't know if you've seen that movie or not.
I just saw Porky's too. Go ahead.
But he made a movie years ago called I Heart Huckabees. And it starred Lily Tomlin, Dustin Hoffman, Mark Wahlberg, Naomi Watts, Jude Law, Jason Schwartzman. It's a really interesting kind of quirky movie. But there is a video of him, David O. Russell, screaming at Lily Tomlin and her screaming back at him. And it's unbelievable that it got out. Because what happens is, and I don't know if they were shooting on film at the time. So it used to be some of the films that I did were actually shot on film. And what they would do then, so they could do playback for the director, is they would also run a video camera. And somebody would sit, they were called the VTR operator, and they would have video so they could just play back video to see if we like that take or not.
Is that called a daily?
No, dailies are what's done at the end of the day.
Oh, that makes sense.
So they'll cut together, this is what we shot today, and you'll watch the dailies.
Oh, so you said that this is...
This is video recording for instant playback.
Oh, purposes. Instant playback. Okay.
Yes, if you're shooting on film, you can't just rewind.
Sure.
So I think that's where this footage comes from, because it's not from one of the main cameras, it doesn't look like. But if you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. It's unbelievable.
And this is Lily Tomlin?
This is Lily Tomlin and David O. Russell. And he's screaming at her, calling her all sorts of names. And Jason Schwartzman is sitting on the set with his feet up on the desk watching this all happen. And Russell storms out at one point. And then you can hear him yelling off screen. And then he comes back through a door in the set still yelling. And then there's another scene from the same movie where it's all the characters are in the car. So there's 6 adults in this car. There's 3 people in the front seat and 3 people in the back seat. And he and her are at it again, screaming at each other.
I wouldn't expect that I wouldn't expect Lily Tomlin to be able to bring that out in someone.
Oh my God. No. She gets pretty nasty too.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
And I never got to see anything like that, which I would have enjoyed.
But the broken people that maybe you had worked with in the past, was it anger management issues that you picked up on, or was it... No,
it was substance abuse issues.
Oh.
Yeah. You can kind of understand it based on the history that I knew about that person.
Well, I would love to think that I wouldn't be like that. But if I think to rock stars, and if you are a nobody, and then all of a sudden you release a Nevermind, and
right.
the next day if what feels like the next day you are an international superstar, and people are throwing money, and there's women and drugs everywhere and alcohol. It's not like you have to get up at a certain time. It's, well, I got to be up at 8 a.m, got to hit the factory job. I mean, it would be hard, especially if you get that kind of success early on. If you're 22, 23 years old and you are a superstar, whether it's in music or if you're an actor. And from what I've seen, it's a tedious job to film a movie. It's like you're there a lot, but you're not always working, so you got lots of time on your hands if you're an actor.
Yeah, you probably shoot between 2 and 3 minutes of dialogue a day total. 2 to 3 scripts. So script pages, it's usually 60-second pages, so it's 60 seconds of time. And you try to do 2 to 3 pages a day. So it depends on the director, too.
I would love to think that I would be able to handle that, but I could totally understand how you could be drawn into some sort of world of substance abuse when that's your gig.
Yeah. It's a lot of hurry up and wait, is how it was always phrased. And nobody's going to say no to you, right? Hey, can you get me XYZ? There's always somebody that's willing to do that. So
there's a good possibility that if you are filming a movie somewhere, that there is a street pharmacist around that will take care of all of your illegal substance abuse prescriptions.
Yes, I never saw, like, the worst that I saw was like switching out fake alcohol for real alcohol and pot. And this is before pot was legal, but I never saw anything harder than either of those two things.
Wait a minute. People would take someone's pot and put, what would you replace pot with to make someone?
No, I'm saying that I caught one night. I was looking for an actor. We were just wrapping up a film, like doing the very last day of shooting. Mm-hmm. We're shooting a scene that's the characters are having dinner at this person's house. So we were shooting in an actual house, not on a stage. And there was a front door and a back door. Those are the only ways in and out. And it's raining outside. So you don't want the actors going outside and getting wet. Mm-hmm. This is a big deal. And I was covering the back door because that's where the director was sitting out there, I think, and somebody else. So I was sitting out there with them, but I'm also keeping an eye on the back door. And then there was somebody watching the front door. And we're ready to shoot. And we're like, oh, wait a minute. Where is so-and-so? Okay, well, he didn't come out the front door. And he didn't go out. Where the hell is he? So I start thinking to myself, I wonder if he's somewhere with the crew. Like, who has pot? Because I knew that he was a pothead. So I find him in the back of the Grip and electric truck. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You've got 80 people sitting around waiting for you. And he's like, oh, I'm just, enjoying a little church service. Like, he thought he was being cute. And I said, Jesus effing loves you. Now get back to set. Let's do this. This is so obnoxious. And I would love to tell everybody who that was, but I won't. Because you would know this guy.
Carrot Top? Was it Carrot Top? Was it Carrot Top?
That's exactly who it was.
I got to tell you, I don't know what that gig pays, Tracy, but I would have a hard time walking away from doing that kind of work. I mean, it sounds,
You get really good stories, but here's the reality of the situation. The way that it works typically is that you start Monday morning. You got to be there, at least in my department, 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe 4:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. because you're shooting daylight scenes in the beginning of the week. And then you have, depending on if it's union or non-union, usually have what they call a 12-hour turnaround time. So from the time you wrap, say you finish at 6 p.m., the earliest you can start the next day is 6 a.m. So that starts backing up during the course of the week. And it's always planned then by like Friday, you have what we would call Fraturdays. So by Friday, you're going in at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon sometimes, and then shooting until 3 or 4 in the morning, potentially. Mm-hmm. Then you got to get, your sleep schedule back and be in on Monday. And a lot of the lower budget independent stuff I did, we were shooting 6 days a week. So you're doing 18, 20-hour days. I mean, the longest day I ever did was 22 hours.
Oh, wow.
And I had to be there the next day. So it sounds like a lot of fun, and it is a lot of fun, but it's also just crazy. Like the craziest stuff that I ever really had to do was when I was doing It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And they would shoot all the interiors. So I don't know if you're familiar with that show or not, Fingers.
No, not really. It's at a bar, isn't it? A lot of it?
Yeah, it's at a bar.
Yeah.
And that's all shot in California on a stage. But all the exteriors for every single episode, and say they would do, I think, 20 episode seasons, maybe even a little bit more. They would come to Philadelphia and shoot all the exteriors in about a week. Mm. So you'd be jumping around and doing maybe 3 different episodes, exteriors, in a day. So you're running all over the city. And that cast is very well known in the city.
Sure.
It's a huge show. And then they also have Danny DeVito, who is probably one of the most recognizable human beings on the planet.
Right.
Got the boomers know him from Taxi and Cheers, and then the younger generation knows him. You've got him, the Penguin from the Michael Keaton Batman, and then he's also in Matilda, so little kids know him. So it's just, and he loves talking to people, and
right.
He's very small, so you can just lose him. It just wander off in the streets, and you got to keep that wrangled, and so that was crazy doing those shoots and trying to the cast together. And
the other thing too, that's from what you're saying, that sounds like a great job for someone who is 24 years old.
Yes. Yeah, I got out of it when I hit 30.
I was just about to say, once you hit 30, that doesn't sound like as much fun.
No.
It's too bad. How long do these NDAs last?
I think forever.
Oh. So there will be no book that could be written.
Oh. If I wanted to get sued by some studios.
Could be worth it.
Maybe I can team up with some of my other friends who are still in the business who have other stories, and we could write a book anonymously.
There you go.
Try to piece together who the hell put all this stuff out. But I mean, there are certain things where I was either alone with an actor and saw stuff happen, like the pulling the guy out of the truck. Yeah. So if it came out, not that he would remember necessarily, but I think it would be pretty easy for them to narrow it down.
Do you think any of these actors that you worked with would remember you?
It depends. Like certain people, I mean, the average shoot was about 40 days. So seeing somebody every day for 40 days.
Yeah.
I mean, I did one of the other really, really nice actors that I worked with was Diane Lane. And she was absolutely wonderful. And so I saw her every day for 40 days, and I worked with her in pre-production. Is on that film, she was playing an FBI agent. Mm-hmm. So this was one of the coolest things that I ever got to do is they took the cast out to an FBI shooting range. Oh, wow. And the FBI came and taught everybody how to shoot, gave us all Glocks, and I got to shoot with them. Because that was my assignment, was just to babysit the cast while they go to the FBI shooting range.
How long ago was this?
That was 2007.
Were there any actors or people that you knew who were huge leftists that were turned off by the experience? Like, oh, it's a gun, it's icky.
No. And it was interesting. Her husband is Josh Brolin, who is Barbra Streisand's stepson, right? And you would think a big lefty. He came out specifically just to go shooting with us at the FBI thing.
Oh.
I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. No, and during the filming of that is when the Virginia Tech shooting happened. So we were on set when that went down. And I was expecting there to be this whole eruption and like, anti-gun stuff. And no, we took a moment of silence and that was it. We went right back to work. I didn't hear anything political out of anybody's mouth.
Well, this is one of the things I noticed some actors who are conservative that were tweeting after Ricky Gervais's monologue. The percentage of people who are conservative on set versus liberal, it would surprise a lot of people, would it not?
I think it would. It's a little bit hard to distinguish. Like you kind of find those people. You can usually count on people in special effects and in like an armorer who's the person that's in charge of weapons on set. You can count on those guys to kind of be more right-leaning. And then it's kind of random. Like I knew a sound guy that was, and it just kind of comes out through the course of working with people over time. But honestly, I think because everybody assumes that everyone's liberal, you don't really talk politics all that much. And maybe that's different now because I haven't worked on a set since, Orange Man Bad took over. So maybe they're talking about it all the time. But it really didn't come up all that much.
Well, how will I don't know enough about. I don't know anything about that industry. Were you an independent contractor?
Yes.
So how will this AB5 bill in California affect?
Well, it'll only affect. Let me think. It will basically affect production assistants and non-union ADs. So I was a production assistant and a non-union AD. I was given the opportunity to join the Directors Guild, and I just decided not to because I don't believe in unions, and that's like the one that offers, in my opinion, the worst protections for anybody in the industry. You just allow that department to be abused. But everybody else, like the camera department, they have their own union. Producers are in a union. Most directors are in the Directors Guild. All of the transportation people are Teamsters. Hair, makeup, wardrobe, and the rest of the set, they're in unions. So it's not going to affect them per se. I would think it's going to affect people that are trying to break in that have to be production assistants or, cast assistants, those kind of things. There's a camera assistant that's not necessarily in the union. Sometimes you get a wardrobe assistant. Those people will probably be affected. But I don't really know how it works. So say if you're on a movie, does that blow you up or does that count as one thing? Because my understanding was if they were the only people that I know that it affects are the writers, right? And they're saying you can only do 35 articles or something like that. Right. So would it be you can only do 35 productions in a year, which is, unless you're doing commercials, that's not going to happen. Because as I explained, you're 40 days of shooting and maybe a week of prep or 2 weeks of prep. And that would, as far as I can tell, that would only count as one thing. So it shouldn't really affect them all that much. But still, that law is so stupid.
And now it may be coming to New York.
Of course it will. God forbid they learn anything.
God forbid they learn anything. No, I think you hit the nail on the head just by going over all the different unions that are involved in the film industry. So as long as you are a member of the union, then...
Yeah, you should be fine. Yeah, and there isn't... I mean, if you watch anything nowadays, you're going to see, like, Made in Canada or New Mexico or Georgia. Remember, there was that big deal a couple of years ago with the Georgia abortion law. We're not going to film here anymore. Well, they were all filming there because they get these huge tax breaks.
Right.
And so it's just, they don't want to pay the taxes. This is why they shoot all over the place. New Mexico's huge because they have a huge tax incentive. Then you got Georgia. Oregon has a pretty decent tax incentive, but they'll go shoot in Canada. It's unbelievable to me how many shows are shot in Canada because it's cheaper. So it's like, okay, you guys understand the economics when it comes to protecting your bottom lines.
Right.
But
speaking of video that was shot,
Yes.
It wasn't done by Hollywood. But did you see Elizabeth Warren dancing?
I did. Oh, man.
To me, anyone who is associated with her campaign and messaging, they need to be fired just because of this. This is as bad as candidates who go to Iowa and they have to show the folks out there, Bill O'Reilly calls them the folks, has to show the folks that they're relatable, so they'll eat whatever crappy fair food is at whatever county fair they're at in Iowa. And, of course, somebody will shove a corn dog into their face, and at that point there will be a photographer taking a snapshot of someone looking like they're going down on a corn dog, and it's awful. You just Google search Michelle Bachmann and corn dog, and you'll know what I'm talking about, or Rick Perry and corn dog. Anyone who was involved in that should have been fired. Anyone who was involved who said to Elizabeth Warren, hey, you know what? You need to show that you are relatable. Why don't you dance for the people? You know, people love that Ellen show. People love it when Ellen dances. You should dance.
Yeah. Well, let's play it. It's Elaine Bennis bad. Oh my Lord. It looks like she's going to punch herself in the head.
For those who aren't watching the podcast on YouTube or BitChute, she does this weird luau kind of move, and I think she was doing the lawn sprinkler. I don't know. What was that?
It looked like she was punching herself in the head. But I see the luau move that you're talking about.
Cultural appropriation. To find people.
I wonder if it rained after, do you think? And she's just taken a dive in the polls, huh?
She's the new Kamala Harris, isn't she?
I said, well, Julian Castro dropped out and threw his support behind her, so that should be a huge bump.
Oh, and then the author dropped out this week.
Yeah, Marianne Williamson.
Yeah. So they're dropping like flies before we're only, I believe, February 3rd. Is that?
Yes. February 3rd is the Iowa caucus.
And then the following week's the New Hampshire primary.
Correct, on the 11th. Yep. And I believe, because as we were talking about, excuse me, before the show, I've been betting on Predict It.
Fill people in on what Predict It is.
Predict It allows you to bet on all kinds of different political things. So they normally, and I don't think they have it up now because I guess nobody's watching the damn debates. But every time there was a Democrat debate, they would allow you to bet like who will get the most speaking time, who's going to have the biggest bump afterwards, those kind of things. And so you go to Predict, I think it's predictit.org maybe, which is just funny because they had to do all kinds of stuff to get around betting laws. And the way that it works is you buy a share. You can buy yes or buy no on most things. Okay. Or like every week they have like how many tweets is Trump going to have? And you can bet on that. And so right now, one of my bets is how many candidates will have dropped out of the Democrat primary before the Iowa caucuses. So do you know how many have dropped out thus far?
Well,
Let's shock you.
Let's see. You had Beto.
Mm-hmm.
You had Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
You had Castro.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Williamson.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say 6.
Oh, no. 14.
Does it have a list?
No, I had to go Google who's dropped out.
I figured there were two more that were in and out that we never even heard of. But 14, eh?
Yep. Here, let me pull up the list for you. Because I was like, oh, that person ran? This person ran? So I'm betting that it's going to be 14 or less. I'm just, because it was so cheap, it was like 2 cents to bet on that. So it's like, honestly, like you've made it this far, you're not just going to stay in there until Iowa can get embarrassed.
Right.
Why bother at this point? So let me see this story for you here. Yep. Hang on. And move this over to here. So, yeah, 14 total. Yeah.
Can we bet on who's next?
Sure.
Oh, I'd say it's Cory Booker.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's whining about the impeachment trial, how it may affect his campaign.
Oh, right. Sure. That's the problem. Okay. Here we go. From People magazine, of all places.
Oh, Jesus.
Who's dropped out? And this was written on the 2nd, so this doesn't include Marianne Williamson. Julian Castro, which we knew. Oh, God, is this one of those stupid slideshows? Because I looked at it on my phone. So, I don't even know who's these people. Oh, great. They tell me when I scroll over it. Julian, Kamala Harris, Governor Steve Bullock. Remember him?
No.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Any relation to Jim J. Bullock?
Yes. Oh, that was a great show, wasn't it? Joe Sestak. Do you remember him?
Nope.
Okay. Oh, he's from Pennsylvania. That's the only reason I know about it. Mark Sanford, who was running against Trump.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
Yeah.
Our buddy Beto.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Ryan.
Yes, I remember that.
Bill de Blasio.
How can we forget Bill?
I know. Kirsten Gillibrand.
She dropped out?
Oh, yeah. Seth Moulton.
Is that the guy who hosts the NBC late night show?
Yes.
I didn't know he was running.
No, I believe he's a congressman, I think from Massachusetts.
Oh.
John Hickenlooper.
Who could forget Hickenlooper?
Right. Mike Gravel, who never got anywhere. And who can forget Eric Swalwell?
Oh.
And then Richard Ojeda, who I've never heard of.
I think it would be fun to get campaign T-shirts for some of these people that nobody's ever heard of and just wear them around. Like Mike Gravel for president.
He made a lot of noise on Twitter. He was very kind of like a curmudgeon. I quite appreciated him. And I think he threw all his support behind Tulsi, so that's given her a huge bump. And they've got a debate this week that they're all angry about because it's only white people on the stage. Mm-hmm. So the woke crowd is none too happy.
I think Mike Gravel his campaign should have revolved around giving people $1,100 a month.
That 1101.
Yeah. It'd be like the Price is Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're an hour in, Tracy. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Let's see. Do we have anything exciting on the list? Oh, I don't know if you saw this or not. And the only reason I bring it up is because I think it's funny that we discussed how this whole Greta Thunberg thing has been one giant documentary in the making. So now we know how the documentary ends. And that is she's going to Davos with a whole bunch of other school strike kids to go confront world leaders and tell them that they need to divest from fossil fuels or else. So this will be the documentary will end with this, the Davos trip.
Wow.
That's my.
Then what?
Well, that's just the end of the documentary. Then maybe she gets a series or she just fades into obscurity.
Oh, no.
Oh, you don't think?
No. Not in the age of Netflix.
No, she's going to, this is Hulu, I believe.
I mean, no, but Netflix will pick her up.
I
I could see her doing a David Letterman type show. Have you seen this? Where I'm not talking about the Late Show. I'm talking about he did like a documentary series where he's traveling the world to I didn't see it, but to bring attention to issues. I think he was in India or something, and he's walking through India talking to Indian people about Indian things, and I was like, I could see somebody picking her up, and by somebody I mean Netflix, and having her travel the earth via boat or hang glider and
hang gliders and bicycles.
Yes. To bring awareness to climate change in a very Greta Thunberg way. Thundercats? I don't know.
Yeah. Greta Thundercats. I don't know. I don't think that she's that captivating of a personality that she could carry a show like that, but that doesn't mean get one. Right. You're right. But I predict that the documentary that neither one of us will watch will end in Davos.
Wow. Now you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, slick blow. Anything else?
No, well, impeachment purgatory might end next week, we're told.
Yeah, I mean, I know we had this, we were going to lead with this at one point, I think, but I'm so bored by the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems so silly. Imminent threat. Serious danger. We'll just sit on it for a little while.
Well, and this is what's going to happen. It's going to go to the Senate. Nothing's going to happen. And then the House is going to turn into Oprah, where there's going to be an impeachment you get an impeachment, and you get an impeachment. Of course, it'll all be Donald Trump. But you get another impeachment, and you get another impeachment. And it's really, really watered down.
Mm-hmm.
Impeachment. What we're looking at is high crimes and misdemeanors now. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised, because we watered down a lot of things in the last couple of decades. Like the word courage, for example, has been watered down quite a bit. It used to be you would consider a firefighter courageous. We're running into a fire to save a cat. Or a police officer, or someone in the military, and now it's someone giving a speech at the Golden Globes is courageous.
It is. Courage. Oh, or changing your gender and then winning awards for that.
Right. So if we watered down words like impeachment or courage, then why not impeachment?
I agree.
So maybe something will come of this week while we're gone, and we'll have more to talk about on impeachment next week. Maybe.
I'm betting against it, though, just because it was cheap to do so.
No. Have you made significant coin on this website?
I made like $35, I think, betting maybe 3 or 4. There's just some free money bets on the table. So you could double. I mean, you could say Trump's going to win right now. If you say Trump's going to win 2020, I think it's 50 cents to buy yes. So you could double your money.
Is there a limit on how much you can bet?
I don't know. I don't bet very much. I know that you're a little bit different with that kind of stuff.
What kind of action are we talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, I won, will Trump be impeached in 2019? And I said, yeah. And I bought into it at like 30 cents or something. I mean, that was pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Right.
So, but if you want to buy right now, is Pelosi going to appoint impeachment managers next week? It's 95 cents to buy yes. So I bought no for like 2 cents. So I got a couple hundred shares of no for $2, you know. But if I win, I could win $200.
So it's just like Bitcoin, is what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. It's the same as how Bitcoin works. Totally.
It's a joke. Please, Bitcoin people, I don't need to hear from you.
Yeah. No. I actually own it and know how it works to a certain extent.
Oh.
Watching when we were going to go to World War III, my Bitcoin went up quite a bit.
Oh, I bet.
Then it tailed off. So.
Okay. I think we need to wrap it up, Tracy.
I agree.
You can catch the Enough Already podcast where all fine podcasts are sold. How about giving us a review on Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review? We'd really appreciate it. That'll get the Enough Already podcast in front of more eyeballs, and that means they'll listen to it in their AirPods, Tracy, when that happens.
Pros, Fingers, the pros.
AirPod Pros, $250.
Hey, it's worth it. Now I can go to the gym and not have to want to strangle people who are talking on their cell phones.
Oh, what's we're wrapping things up, but we are in let's see, we're officially getting into week 3 of the new year. Is your gym still crowded with a bunch of people who won't be there come week 5?
No, I was shocked, and I was in Florida over the holidays, staying with my parents, and there's a gym there at their club, and I thought it was going to be packed on like New Year's Day. Nope. The day after, nope. And I'm like, I guess, once you get to a certain age, because there were some people in their 40s and 50s there, but it's mostly the older set who is very respected. They don't talk on their phones at the gym.
Nice.
Maybe have phones. Although I did see a lot of them wearing Apple Watches, which I thought was interesting, and they knew how to use the technology. So I was like, this is quite impressive. But these people crack me up because they come in wearing like chinos, topsiders.
I don't know what any of that is.
It's very nice clothes, Fingers. It's not appropriate gym attire per se. Like they could be in a Ralph Lauren catalog or a Hilfiger catalog. You wouldn't picture them riding a stationary bike, but that's what they're doing. I love them for it. Free weights, sitting there in your Nautica button down.
Okay.
Just like, good for you.
Oh, you need to sneak a GoPro cam in there and.
Oh, I've taken some shots. I have my phone. I try to crop people's heads out to keep them anonymous, but
yeah. Have you shared them on the internets?
No.
Oh.
No. I don't want to be disruptive. That's not my gym.
Get kicked out of the club for that.
My neighbor, so I don't really. But I have thought about joining another gym so I don't have to deal with this where they actually enforce etiquette. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, it's January. You can't join a gym in January.
Right.
Because it'll be a mob scene. And that's the whole point of getting out of my tiny little gym, so I don't have to sit there and wait to trade reps with somebody who has no respect for such things.
And who will not wipe down the machine or sit on the machine for 15 minutes taking selfies in the mirror of them at the gym.
Exactly. Hey guys, day 3 of the new me.
Yeah, my new fitness journey. I lose my mind whenever someone calls it a freaking journey. Lose my mind. Oh, let me tell you more about my fitness journey. I got a better idea. Eat a Twinkie and shut the hell up. It's not a fucking journey.
And you can follow Fingers on Instagram, and that's what you'll get. Here's the Twinkie pie I ate today, chased by Mountain Dew.
Oh my gosh. If you get on my Facebook page, facebook.com/fingersmollyradio, you'll see an excellent YouTube video on how to make a Mountain Dew cheesecake.
Oh.
Starting your new year out right.
Can you do that in the Instapot?
Well, you know what? I didn't actually watch the video.
Oh.
I saw the description, and everybody was going nuts about it. So, I mean, who has time to read articles or watch videos? You just read the headline. You read the title, and you put it up there. And there's a picture of the Mountain Dew cheesecake.
Wow.
So, I don't actually know how they made it.
They probably just substituted Mountain Dew.
Yes.
For water or something in an instant cheesecake. Man. Yes. You can buy those, It's just you go to the store and they have the no-bake cheesecake and you put Mountain Dew instead of water.
It's green.
Yeah. Still eat it.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway, check out the Enough Already podcast on YouTube, BitChute, and again, where all fine podcasts are sold. Final thoughts, Tracy?
No.
No, indeed. She's Tracy. I'm Fingers. We'll be back soon with another Enough Already.